before that name came, it was a vision that came out of discipleship and evangelism. It really came out of the environment of me pouring into young men when I was, let's see, this would have been when I was 22 years old. But I was pouring into older teenagers at that point in a discipleship, like Bible study rhythm within their lives. And so I would see these guys on the north side of Chicago. They all went to the local public high school, and we were doing Bible studies. And what really impacted me one day was just the lack of education they had. And we were really involved. Like I've been doing after school programs and outreaches. So I was in and out of the public schools. I went to public schools myself. So I know the ups and downs of education in them. And so what happened was, as we're going through the scriptures, in particular Acts, it just hit me one Wednesday night that like I felt like, you know, we can be in this Bible study group, but for those that knew the Lord and were following the Lord, man, I knew that what they were going back to, really dysfunctional homes, a really tough neighborhood, all the pressures of everything you can think of, dysfunction, gangbanging, drugs, just being a teenager, like all those things. And so I just like, how do they take the word themselves if they're struggling to read? Because the literacy was very clear to me, and at different levels. Like, and then for the non-believing guys that were coming just because they were being loved on, they were being in relationship with us, they knew us. It was like, man, how do they get exposed to Jesus other than us? Now, I know the Lord uses his people, but I was just like, man, this is crazy, because it's like 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, and they struggle to access the word of God. At the same time, I was like, man, the word of God has never been bound by print and paper. I thank God that the word of God is in print and paper, but you know, God is a master communicator. And so as they came in, at that point, it was CD players. They were constantly listening to all these different rappers. And I was an MC at the time. I had a live hip hop band. And so I just know the power of words, right? And obviously the verse, faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. So it's always like, man, how do we connect this? So long story short, after one Bible study one night, I went out to the parking lot that's right by this basement we were in of a building that the church owned at Edgewater Baptist Church. I was just like, man, you know, the one common place that everybody learns is through their ears. And this was before like the big rush of technology of audio video. I mean, you had CD players and all that, but not where we're at now.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, man, I'm gonna make an audio Bible. If these young brothers can riddle off thousands of words by memory of all these rappers, and I'm a poet and a rapper, I know how much it impacts me. And I knew how much it impacted me when I wasn't following the Lord, like the music I was listening to. You can say, oh, that's entertainment, but I'm like, nah, everything is teaching, everything is preaching, right? Everything is communication that affects your soul. So I went home, recorded Acts 2 and 3, just in my home recording studio, and I put a couple of beats to it. Came back the next week, and I said, fellas, I want you guys, we're going to still stay in Acts, but you guys can feel free to read and listen along, but I got something new for you guys to listen to today. And I pressed play on the CD player, the burnt CD that I made. And it was like night and day, man. The engagement with the word of God, their attentiveness, and the most important thing is afterward, the spiritual dialogue we had about, you know, Peter preaching and the different events in Acts 2 and 3 was just like night and day with their understanding, because all of them were engaged. Some of them closed their eyes to listen. Some of them listened while reading along. And some of them just were interacting with the text, you know? And so I was like, man, it's an age-old thing. Like God has made us communicators and made us able to take in messages, right? Mm-hmm. But print was really hard for them. So it was just bridging the gap through this audio Bible. So after I saw that it was like night and day and they went deep into this spiritual talk, like the long short of it was like, cool, there was an idea. I went out to the parking lot. I called my friend Aaron Lopez, who's the audio director right now. And I said, hey, bro, man, I got this idea. I think it's from the Lord. And I literally was looking at the street light and I was like, man, I think we could call it Streetlights. We were almost like full-time using music within the music scene and evangelism. So we were really busy with music. So I was like, I don't know when we can do this project, but I just I think this is needed for the kingdom. I think it's needed for discipleship. I think it's needed for evangelism. And I was like, and you know where the world is going. Like, we're fast paced, you know, even during that time, we're like, yo, we're going to be streaming soon. We're going to be like, and video is going to be as easy as audio. It's going to happen. So that's where the initial vision started. So I'll pause there because then it, you know, we've been doing it for 14 so years now. So there's a lot of growth and evolution of what happened with the ministry. But that was the original vision, making an audio Bible that connected with young people that struggle to read, or you could add on top of their struggling to read or their ability to read this dynamic audio Bible that was diverse. It has a hip hop score behind it, not to overwhelm the text, but to gird it, like underneath it, and to provide that
give
context.
It a rhythm, right? So, give it a rhythm. It's like got a beat. It's got a rhythm you want to follow along with.
Exactly. Right. So that was the audio Bible, and then, you know, there was a lot of years in between. Started working with Tyndale House Publishers eventually, because they were the ones that, there was one lady there that really got us. She was from Harlem, African American. She's like, look, and at that point, I mean, I felt like the two different Americas were really far from each other. I think the last couple of years, they're all, you know, there's all these cultural accidents happening, which is in some ways is a good thing. Obviously, there's a lot of hard stuff with that. But at that time, I mean, for anybody to call from the city to like a suburban publisher, and I did call other ones, and they were like, okay, this is how it works. Pay us. And I was like, well, we want to give away for free. And I was like, what will your profit margin be? And I was like, the people we are actually seeking probably won't even pay for it. It's like we just want people to have the word of God in this form. So, but Tyndale felt us, and we started with the NLT, and then another ministry, Group Outreach for Youth, that was working in the projects. They started in Cabrini Green projects, and then they just kind of started working with at-risk teens all across the city. They're like, it doesn't make sense, but we're going to bring you on just to help try to support your team. And under Grip, we grew to 3 people. And then Streetlights really grew as a ministry. And so that was for 9 years. And then 3 years ago, we launched as our own nonprofit. And it's just grown globally, English and Spanish now, print materials as well as digital, gospel music, Bible teaching. And so it's grown since then. So that's what Streetlights is now. It's a 7-part team. Most of us are in Chicago. We have one full-time employee in San Juan. And it's just a creative communication ministry to preach, sing, and communicate the gospel, as well as, you know, to empower the church of all different needs, you know, whether you're illiterate all the way to the advent of just the digital age, digital learning. And also to just expose people that don't know the Lord in a way that's accessible, they can hear the word of God.